Oh, it
Oh,
says it's recording. Is that going to record to my phone though?
no, it'll go to the cloud,
I'll
I
go to
think.
the cloud. Maybe
It's
I'll just,
Thursday, guys. Our brains are turning to mush or something.
well, and Lori's not the best at tech. We've all learned that, right? So let's see. How
You're
do
do-
I make
you're
you?
doing.
Trying to make you the
You don't need to
co-host
now.
for
You don't need
sure.
to now. Just be, you're already recording it. So yeah, I think it's going to the cloud. So you're
Okay.
good.
As long as it goes to the cloud, because it says record to the computer. And I was like, there's Cami. Now we can
Oh,
see your face.
Sorry about
Hi.
that.
That's okay. We're
Technical
so
issues. Had to call my husband over going, it's working.
well, we're grateful that you got it figured out. It's always nice to see your face. And I don't think I've ever met you live in person. So welcome to our Night After Dark. We've got a lot of great agents on here listing, and then we'll also be recording this and putting it on our feed. If you would just take a moment to introduce yourself, we'd kind of like to know who you are, how many years you've been in the business, what your specialty is, and then my favorite question to always ask anybody that I meet, which will be your first question, is what makes you awesome?
All right. Well, I'm Cami Edvilson. I am I am now do listings and buys. I'm on the Stern team at Keller Williams in Salt Lake. So I originally worked just on the buy side. I did that for 4 years, and just in the last year have moved over to doing listings as well. So I still love working mostly with buyers. That's my favorite part. So I still call that my specialty. I like that the best. Though listings is nice because it's opened up a few more doors, but buyers is my favorite. And then what makes me awesome? I boy, it sounds cheesy, but I love what I do. I love helping buyers. I love working with them and helping them get the best deal possible as they get into their home, whether it's their first home or their second home or their forever home. So I love it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, we are going to turn the time over to you. And do you want them to turn their screens on, their cameras on? What would you like?
Um, I don't know. It's awesome. Also, just full disclosure, my first time teaching this portion of Ignite. I've taught a couple of other classes during the day, but this is my first time teaching the buyer's presentation, I guess is what it is here, filling in for Marita. So if you want to turn your cameras on, that'd be great so that as we interact and we go through this, I kind of know what who you are, but it doesn't really matter, I guess. So we'll just kind of go and and learn from here. So first off, are you all brand new?
I am.
I am.
Awesome.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. Have any of you completed a transaction all the way through, or do you have anybody that you're currently working with? What stages are you guys at? What does it look like for you?
This is Terry. I wanted to fix that. I have been doing commercial for about 6 months, but I have not done residential,
Okay.
but haven't had a deal yet.
I'm helping right now.
Awesome. Well, okay. So I will just kind of go through the process as I would do it and what I have had great success with. And then I did have slides that came with they were minimal that showed it. It was just kind of like this is the next stage of the trading that we're at. So we'll kind of go through there. So I don't know that I'll necessarily pull those up. I'll just kind of leave my camera up and we'll kind of talk through it. If I get talking too much, don't hesitate to say stop, hang on, let's go back over that. And sometimes I get super excited because it's fun for me, it's exciting, and I get talking too fast, and sometimes I forget that people haven't done it before, and so I need to slow down. So if I get going too fast or I don't pause, feel free to stop me and we'll walk through it and we can repeat things. That's not a problem. So who would like to be my potential buyer and role play with me as we kind of go through this?
I'll do it. I'll do it.
All right, who do we have?
Terry.
Terry? Okay.
Terry, not
perfect.
not the Terry that's in charge, but just somebody with another Terry.
All right, perfect. Okay. All right, we will start off like we have just sat down together in an office. So, hey Terry, thanks for joining me and coming in with me today and talking to me a little bit more about your home buying process and what this looks like. Tell me
Yeah, I
what
put my camera
tell
on.
me a little bit about your family.
I'm married. My kids are all grown, and so there's just two of us. And I've got a pet that I will be using. I have family from out of town come visit. And I love gardening, and my husband plays golf. So we'd love a lovely yard. We don't need a massively large house, but we do want some privacy. And we love to travel, but we do that with hotels, and we don't have an RV or anything like that. So, and we
All
want
right.
to, is there anything else you want to know about us?
What kind of pet do you have? Is it a dog, a cat, a bird? What do you have?
Oh, I have a cat and I have a black lab. So I have a
Oh, wow.
dog, but I'm always taking care of my daughter's puppy and my mom's dog and watching my sister's dog. So I'm always seeming to be having a house full of animals.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah. But it sounds like you guys have a lot of fun. You like to entertain, hang out with people, family, friends. So that's awesome.
Yes.
You're my kind of people. I love to garden as well. So I like that too.
Yeah,
It's
that's why I look like this now, because
teases
I've
me.
been gardening this
Yes,
morning.
yes, exactly. And my family teases me that I'm crazy, that I'm happy in a weed patch, but it makes me happy.
That's exactly what I did today. Yes.
Oh, and what do you and your husband do for work? What do you guys do?
Well, I'm starting real estate. I've been doing commercial and learning that, but my husband is a retired air traffic controller.
Well,
And
really?
yes, so his air traffic controllers are required to retire at a younger age. And so he retired and we moved away and we traveled through Europe for a while. And then we came back when we had a grandchild. So we're back and bought a house in Utah. So we
Oh,
love to
fun.
travel. And yeah, so he's a avid golfer. And so he pretty much does that now. He's thought about going back to work, but he is happy with what he's doing. So, which
I've
is
heard that's a
whatever he wants.
really, yeah, I hear that's a very high stress job,
It
very
was,
demanding.
it was. Yes, it was yes, it was, but he loved it and he did great. So
Did he work here in Salt Lake or?
he did. He worked at the en route center over off of the airport. So not at the airport. So he worked in the air, the traffic that was cross country, like from Denver to here. So keeps planes from having mid-air. And so then, yeah, he did that and then he was also the Salt Lake Regional Union rep. So he was traveling and doing a lot of that for training. So yeah, he loved his job. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure he's enjoying retirement too.
Yeah, he does not want to he still has all of his hair, so that's good. Yeah, so that's what
It
we
sounds
do.
like you guys do a lot of traveling for fun and
Uh-huh.
recreation. What else do you guys like to do?
I had just recently lost my horse. I had a horse for 20, I was always with horses for 27 years. So, but just last month, my horse that I had to make a tough decision. So she's not with me anymore. And I won't be getting another one. And then we used to have a sailboat on the Great Salt Lake. And so between gardening and horse and golf and grandkids and family and travel, we have not enough time to do anything. And then real estate, throw that on top, you know. So he's
That's right.
retiring and I'm trying to supplement the money to pay for everything. So it's
Well,
my
I'm sure
fun.
you'll do well. So you'll be
We
great.
will.
And then you guys have is your dreams. What do you like to do? What's your goals? I mean, you sound like you've accomplished quite a bit, but what are your future dreams? What do you guys want to do and accomplish moving forward?
I think I would like to be able to still travel. We have family that lives over in Northern Europe, so we'll be heading there next year again to visit with them. go to the golf tournament that's out there. So those are kind of our goals. I would love to, we used to live on the beach in North Carolina, but if we could ever do maybe an investment property there, if when the market kind of settles down or the insurance rates. So something like that. But for now, just I would say more traveling, and that's kind of our goal right now.
Awesome.
And
Well,
security,
great.
you know, obviously having build up some security. So since we are on the upper end and not building up our, you know, our account, try to keep our savings from dwindling. Let's put it that way.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Sounds great. All right. Well, as I go through this process, what I like to do is to make sure that I build this amazing experience for you guys that is comfortable, that is smooth, that, I mean, obviously it's real estate, there's bumps in the road, but as we go through the process, that I try to make those bumps limited. If we hit a road bump, that even though it seems like it might be a big deal, I've already come with solutions to help you through the process. So I want this to be as seamless and as enjoyable and wonderful as it can be. So in order to do that, if you were to rank your um, what your needs are and what's important to you on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be for me to give you guys a 10 experience, so to speak, on a scale of 1 to 10? What's important to you guys?
Do you mean in like the purchasing of what we want, or is that what you
As we
mean
go
like
through this process, yeah. Would it be
okay.
communication? What would that look like for you guys?
Can you say that again? I lost you for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Would it be communication? Would it
Oh,
be
okay.
what knowledge?
Yes,
What would help?
communication. Yeah, communication, knowledge of like the area, or if there's any, especially like if anything in the community is supposed to change in regards to something we may purchase that, you know, they may be building, you know, a widening the road or any of that. I would say communication of like, and then knowing when something comes available right away. So with today's market. So
Okay. Wonderful. What could I do to make this a 10 plus experience for you guys?
I would say for us, it would probably back to the communication, just keeping in touch. If we find a house, what's going on with, since we haven't bought that many homes, knowing, uh, what's going on, what our next steps are. I know with like inspections that you're on top of everything, that the seller's agent is giving all the information that they need, things like that. I mean, just kind of maybe information on loan officers and just, you know, knowledge in general, you know, kind
Knowledge.
of,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And for a 10 plus plus, would that still kind of be building on those steps? No, keeping communications, knowing the next steps, knowledge,
I would
being
say knowing what we want, only really just not wasting our time by showing us things that we don't want, really
okay.
understanding what our needs are. So we don't waste your time or ours, looking at properties that would not interest us at all. So knowing
Okay,
what we
great.
really do want.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So we'll kind of pause there for a second. So, what I've noticed, if you have already commented on, is that we're going through Ford. And I don't know, this probably isn't the best way to screenshot or to show you, but um, let's see, probably moving in there. I don't know if you can see my notes very well. But I kind of took notes as we went along, and I just went down Ford and I took notes as we went. So, Ford stands for um, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So in the beginning, when I meet with clients, I like to do what we just did. We just sit down and we chat. You guys talk. I say you guys as if you were the buyers, but I have the buyers talk first and they do all the talking, just like Terry did just here. I'm like, oh, tell me about your family. She told me about her family. I took notes on that. So I start to build an idea of what they are going to need in their home and what that looks like. Then I asked, what do you guys do for a living? So I got to know what their occupation is. What do you like to do for recreation and fun? So that I can try to incorporate possibly some of that into their home. Like she loves gardening. Let's get a house with a yard so I can do that for her as well. he loves to golf. Maybe we live near a golf course, things like that. I'm just getting all the little nibbits that I can, all the nuggets as we go along, so that I can do my job well as we move forward, if that makes sense. And then dreams. What are their dreams? Are we finding a home now for them to live in, and then eventually we're looking for investment properties? Are we finding a home that they live in that they're not spending their max budget, so they have that money and availability to travel? Or what does that look like? Does that make sense?
Mhm. That
And
does
it
to me.
seems very fluid. It builds that rapport and that connection, and you kind of decide, will I enjoy working with these folks or will I not? Are we a good fit? What does that look like? Does that make sense?
Tammy, I have a question.
Yes,
So you said that acronym is Ford.
correct.
What's the R again?
R is recreation.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have to, since I didn't write all that down, I'll have to catch that from you. What, can you say it again? Ford, which was
Ford. Yep, it
family?
is. F is for family.
Okay,
O is occupation. R is recreation. And D is dreams.
okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And as you get going, I mean, we were very comfortable with each other. I got a lot of information. Sometimes you'll run
I
across
am
the
a
things
talker. Yeah, we probably would be a
that are,
long talk. Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes you get folks that are very short and they're just like, it's like pulling teeth almost to get it out of them. But you'll get more comfortable with trying to figure out how to get them to chatter. So it's good. So, but that was great. That was really good.
Mhm.
And then I like to let them know that they are important to me. So I want to create an experience for them that's great. That's why I always say, I'd like to, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's important to you? So that I can, as I'm working with them, I know what to do. Like communication's number one. That's great. Number two is letting them know what the next steps are. So they're not wondering, okay, great, we've done this. What's coming next? And they're kind of afraid or in limbo or anxious. I want to calm all those things. So they want to know what next steps are. So I want to make sure as I'm communicating, I'm very thorough. And then lastly, not wasting time. Time's valuable to these clients. So I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time. So the more we're communicating, the better I understand what they need. I can get them where they need to be, and we're not wasting time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any questions or thoughts behind any of that?
How do you handle the situation when someone's very let's say it's a couple and one is very like negative, doesn't want to sell the house or buy a house or just, and the other one's it's just very quiet. How do you get people to kind of open up? I mean, I can get usually one person, but it seems like, do you do it face to face? Do you do it on Zoom? Do you just,
I try to meet everybody as much as possible face to face.
okay,
Obviously, if they're out of state or in a different area of the state or things just don't work out, we have to do Zoom. But I try to meet face to face, either in the office or I've done it a few times where I've met at a McDonald's and just kind of
okay,
met in a booth, or some people meet at a coffee shop. I,
okay,
I try to do it in an office setting as much as possible. And there are times that I'll actually go meet them at their home, wherever they currently reside, whether it's with family or if they're renting, meet at their apartment. I try to avoid that if I can, just for safety concerns, because I don't know who these people are and where they live, but I do
right.
try to meet them face to face. Yeah. Um, but if there's somebody that's just not talking, I'll be like, are you excited about this? What questions do you have? Because I see that you're not answering a lot of the questions. Is it that you're nervous or are you just wondering? What is it? And then I kind of stop talking. And usually they say something like, I am scared to death. This is a huge investment. This is whatever. I'm really nervous. Or you might find that they're really laid back and they're like, you know what? I am just so excited to be in a house that I don't know. I just want to hear and understand the process, and I'll probably chatter more as we go along. Sometimes they don't know and
Yeah.
they don't talk. So
Okay.
yeah. So that's where I start. And as you can see, that's That's taken a bit of time. So, because usually my buyer presentations are about an hour, give or take. I have had some that have gone so fast that I'm like, I feel like all I did was talk because they didn't say a whole lot. And then I'm wondering if I even connected with them. And at the end, we did. It was good. And I've had some that go over, but on average, you're about an hour, maybe. Yeah. So sometimes an hour and a half, or sometimes a little less, but usually about an hour. So then next, what I do is I kind of explain to them what we're going to do. So I will say something like, great. For the next hour, what we're going to talk about is the overview of the five steps to the home buying process. And I will talk to you a little bit about what those 5 steps are and what that looks like for you. And then we're going to talk about your 5 wants and your 5 needs. Because remember, when we made our appointment with them, we gave them a little bit of homework. And the homework that we gave them is to come to the table with their 5 wants and their 5 needs. So after we talk about the 5 steps to the home buying process, we're going to talk about that homework. Did you bring your homework with you? And usually they giggle and laugh and say yes and say, great, we'll talk about your 5 wants and 5 needs. And after we've had that conversation, if we're finding that we are a good fit for one another, then we'll go ahead and talk about the paperwork and we'll get that signed and done and out of the way. Does that sound good for you? And then usually they're nodding, they say yes, whatever that looks like. And that's where we go to next. Any questions on that? All right. So the 5 steps to the home buying process. So the first step that they need to do is have, I like to call it the golden ticket. So that is their financing, because whenever we submit an offer, we have to submit proof of the ability to purchase along with that. So we have to have our pre-approval letter. So I always say to folks, hey, first thing that we need to do is obtain your golden ticket. Do you have that? And they usually look at me funny and go, I don't know what that means. What do you mean golden ticket, like Willy Wonka? And I'm like, yes, exactly. You have to have your golden ticket to get into the game. Have you met with a lender? Do you have a pre-approval? Or are you working on that? Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. If they don't, I say, perfect. I work with an amazing preferred lender. This is who they are. I write down their names, their phone numbers, their email addresses. I have a little booklet that I put together that I present to everybody. And so in that booklet, I write that down because I let them take that with them. So they have all the resources too. So I'll say, great, let me get you in touch with Amy and Mandy. Here's their name, here's their number, here's their email address. At the end of this meeting, I will also reach out to them and let them know that we have met, that we'll be working together in finding a home so that they know to expect your call and they'll reach out to you as well. That way, both parties know everybody's going to be communicating with each other. And I do that tie down, assuming that we will be working for it. I'll say, great. After this, knowing that we'll be working together to buy this home, I've done that tie down, that we will be working together. Make sense?
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever had buyers kind of be scared of talking to a lender? And have you ever like met with the lender and the buyer?
I have done that. Yep. I've had a couple of people where they're like, I just am so nervous about this whole thing. I don't know if we qualify. And I have said, you know what? When we go ahead and we meet next Tuesday at 3:00, I'm going to bring my lender with me. Does that sound okay for you? And they're usually like, sure. And then she can ask questions as we are there going through the process. And as we're at the end of our meeting, you're going to have a good idea of where you are as far as a budget so that we know what we need to do for you moving forward. Does that sound good? They say yes. And then I bring them. But I have brought my lender with me to a couple of appointments. Absolutely.
Tammy, can you
Thank
hear
you.
me?
Yes.
Tammy, do you have to have them sign anything before you bring a lender on to disclose anything, or is it just an open conversation for them if you brought a lender to that?
It's just an open conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. So that once we have that golden ticket and we know, and some people say, well, I don't know what I want to do. So do I have to work on that? I always say, let's get your golden ticket in hand because one, if we go out home shopping and we find that home that you love, we want to be able to submit an offer and we need to have that pre-approval letter with us. And we don't want to miss out on that home, do we? No. Great. So let's get this golden ticket going and in our hand so that I don't do a disservice by showing you homes that aren't what you can afford or are well below your budget and you're disappointed. So we want to make sure that I am doing the best by you by looking in the range that is you're comfortable with and we know that you can afford before we move forward. And they're usually good about getting it done pretty quick. And realistically, if you're working with preferred lenders, they can get that done within 24 to 48 hours. So it's not like you're wasting a lot of time or you're not going to go see homes for a week. You can usually get things done within a couple of days. Then the next step is the VIP home buying system. So this is where I talk to them about I am their one-stop shop. I always make it sound like it's so exciting that it's so exclusive to be part of this. I would say, you know what? Once we sign papers and we are working together, I give you access to the MLS. The MLS is where all the agents go ahead and put in their information about their listings. And it is a lot of fun to have access to that. So I will send you a link that all you have to do is create a password and then you have access to this. You will be able to search for homes that are your dream home. And sometimes late at night, you can look at those $2 to $3 million homes and go down that rabbit hole of what those homes look like. And it's super fun and exciting. But most of all, you have access to everything that I have there looking at the MLS. And they get super excited thinking that they have an in that nobody else does because they can access the MLS and see all the pictures and photos and all that kind of good stuff. Then I also let them know that collectively, as one of the great things that working with a Keller Williams agent is that we meet on team meetings every Tuesday and we talk about wants and needs. So we talk about our buyers, we talk about our sellers. We have everybody comes together and they start talking about their listings of things they have coming up. And so I, at times, have the ability to have access to properties that haven't hit the market yet. I have so that we are ahead of the game. So they're not even on the MLS yet. And as we're having these meetings every Tuesday, I may find a perfect fit for you. And we want to be able to get in and see that property before everybody else, right? They're like, yeah, this sounds awesome. So I let them know that I have this network that I'm working with and I'm talking to other agents all the time, trying to find them properties. And hopefully we can strike up a deal before something hits the market. And that gets them excited as well. And then we talk about for sale by owners. I like working with, I've done several deals where the sellers are for sale by owners. And so I like doing that. So I'll let them know that as I'm out and about, either driving to or from the office, or I'm in the area that they are looking to buy, that I will search and seek out for sale by owners. I not only search KSL, but I will drive neighborhoods and see if there's a for sale by owner sign. And I will call them and reach out to them and ask them to tell me about their home and see if it's a good match for us and if we can get in to see that. And again, they get excited knowing that you're going above and beyond just not looking at the MLS to find them a home, that you're talking to your partners, you're driving neighborhoods, you're looking for these for sale by owners, and that you're not afraid to work with them, that you're willing to go outside the box to find them a home and get that best fit for them. So that's the second step. The third step is select, tour, and write offers. So then I always ask them, what's your schedule look like? When's the best time you guys can get out and look at homes? Is it in the evenings? Is it weekends? Do you have a flexible work schedule? It looks like, Terry, that you and your husband have free time during the day. Do you guys like to go out and look at homes in the morning? What does that look like? And then I let them tell me what their schedule best looks like. And I make notes of that too. Because then I tell them we want to have a dating day. Maybe we want to go out and look at 2 or 3 homes, maybe up to 5, just to kind of get a feel for what they like, especially if they don't know what they want. This is a great thing to go in and explain that we're going to go look at 3 to 5 homes that fit most of their criteria, but maybe what they weren't thinking about, so that they have a good idea of what they really like and what they don't like. Because they may have in their mind they do not want a townhouse. They're adamant that they don't want a townhouse. But if their budget, maybe that's what they need. Maybe a single family home isn't going to be very, very big, might not have the room and space they need, but a townhome might be a little bit less expensive and they might be able to find one. You might be able to find one that fits it. So I like to kind of throw something in there and they like, oh my gosh, this townhome really isn't that bad. This is spacious. This is great. I even have a little backyard for my barbecue. This is amazing. And they may find that a townhome's not that bad. I mean, obviously, if my clients tell me an absolute hard no, I'm not going to force them to see that. But if they don't know quite yet what they're looking for, sometimes we throw something in there just to get an idea of what they really do like and what they don't like. Because until they've walked a home, sometimes they don't really know. They just have preconceived notions in their head of what they want and don't want, not realizing something could provide them most of their checklist. And then I let them know that we'll go tour these homes. If we find one that we like, then we'll go ahead and write an offer on that. I've had clients that I've taken out on day one and we have found their dream home on day one. Some, it didn't happen. We have to go out 2 or 3 times, and that's fine. I want to make sure that you're seeing what you need to find that perfect home. But the more we communicate and the more I better understand what the needs are of what you're looking for, the quicker I can hone in on that and find you your dream home. Does that sound great? And they say, yeah. Any questions on that, on what you would do there?
So you just kind of, do you just kind of give them that reality that, hey, even if we're just looking, you might even find what you want and we can have this deal done, kind of get them excited that it's not going to be a long drawn out process then?
Correct. Yep, exactly. Could be fast. And then when I do take buyers out, we find their home on that first date. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you were right. We found our home on the first day. We're so excited." So, yeah. Yep, it's really fun. And it's even more fun when they actually do find it on that first day, because they get super excited, like, "Oh my gosh, you were so good. You listened to everything and we did find it that first day." And they're even more excited. And then I talk about what happens when we write that offer and it gets accepted. So the next step, step 4, is we're under contract. So I'm like, okay, we've written our offer, we've got it accepted. Now we're under contract. What happens next? So first thing we need to keep in mind is our earnest money. And I talk to them a little bit. I ask them straight up, do you know what earnest money means? Some say yes, some say no, some say that they try to explain what they think it is. But I always, because I'm old, I always say, earnest money is like back when I was a kid and I was looking to buy a vehicle and I was shopping around and I found a truck or a car that I liked. And I say, "Oh, Mr. Seller of this car, I love this car. Here's $100. Hold this car. Don't let anyone else come and look at this while I run to the bank and get the rest of my money to come finish paying you for this car." And everybody laughs because they don't think I'm that old, but I am. And that's how I used to buy vehicles. So they're like, okay. So earnest money is the money that you put down to hold this home, to let the sellers know you are earnest, you want to buy this home, but they need to give you a little bit of time to get your money, get to the bank, so to speak, get your money to come back, kick the tires, check the engine, make sure that this car does what it needs to do for you and will serve your purpose. I always tell them that earnest money is 1% of the purchase price. We'd love it to be more than that. If by chance they don't have it, it could be a little bit less, but they want a budget for 1%. And I ask them, do they have savings? Do they have that 1% put down as earnest money? I let them know, this is your money. You keep it. Even if we end up canceling on this home and looking for a different home, I protect your money to make sure that comes back to you. But it is money that is cashed up front. So I don't want you to write a check for $5,000 knowing this check is going to get cash and you don't have $5,000. So we want to make sure we're writing a check that we can actually cash. And we have that conversation a little bit more in detail. How much money do they have saved up? What does that look like? Because they
Do
need to
you
know.
ask them that? Do you ask them that on the phone before you have your meeting? Just kind of letting them know when you kind of feel them out in case they're first time buyers and they don't have any qualifications or they know nothing. Do you wait to bring that up, the earnest money, the 1%?
Usually the only thing I ask beforehand is if they have an idea of what their budget looks like.
Okay.
And
Okay.
sometimes they say, "Oh, we don't want to spend more than 300," or sometimes they say we have no idea. But if they can tell me a budget, then I'm just like, great. We'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like for you when we sit down and talk. And then I don't bring earnest
Okay.
money up and savings until we meet in person.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Yep. And then I write that down because my little book has, that little section with under contract, and next to earnest money, I will write 1%.
Okay.
And then do a little bit plus or minus, because in this market, you don't necessarily have to have 1%, especially if you're looking for $600,000. Most people that have that budget have that, but just in case, or if they have a really tight budget, they might not, but most of them do. So, but we do talk about that a little bit more depending on what their situation is. Then I let them know that I reiterate the fact that that's due within the first 4 days of going under contract. Then we have our seller's disclosures. I let them know that that is where the sellers tell us everything they know about the home, whether they swapped out the garbage disposal, whether they changed a hose bib, whether they swapped out carpet, hot water heater, or whatever that looks like. They need to tell us everything that they know has happened to that home since they have lived there. And we have a chance to read through that and say, oh, this is great. I'm happy with this. We're good to move forward. Or we say, ooh, what happened here? That's a red flag for me. I can't deal with that. I don't want to move forward on this house. And then we have an opportunity to cancel, get our earnest money back and move on to the next house. So let them know that we get those right away. I usually ask for those within 3 to 4 days of going under contract. So we have time to review those. And then I let them know that title does a preliminary report so that we know that there are no judgments or liens against the home, so that when we go to close, that this home will be theirs and free and clear, that nobody's going to come later asking for some money. We also let them know that we have a chance to inspect the home, that is money that is out of their pocket. So we talk again about that, saying this is an expense for you as Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. A home inspection can be anywhere from $500-600 up to $2,000, depending on how fancy of a home inspection you require. If you ask for a radon test, if you ask for a mold test, if you ask for additional add-ons, it can be more expensive and lean toward that $2,000 mark. If you do a basic home inspection that's just health and safety, the overall condition of the home, and it's a smaller home, it could be as low as $500. So do you have money set aside to pay for your home inspection? And I asked that question because some people are like, oh, I didn't know I needed to pay for that. No, I don't have that. I'm like, great, how far off are you? Do we need to put off our home buying process by a month or 2 months so that you have time to budget and add to that savings account? So, and then I let them know as if everything comes back from the inspection, we have a chance to review that inspection. We have a chance to negotiate anything that comes through that inspection. I always stress with my people that we want to negotiate on health and safety concerns. If the inspection comes back and it says, oh, I noticed in bedroom 1, there's a missing outlet cover. I noticed in the bathroom, there's a missing outlet cover. I noticed on the back porch that there's a loose screw to the handrail and the handrail wriggles. These are things that we can fix ourselves once we own the home. They're not a major health and safety concern because if we go down the list and nitpick every little thing that comes back on the inspection, the sellers might not want to work with us. So I always say we want to negotiate health and safety concerns. If the furnace is dirty, maybe we ask them to have it serviced, have it cleaned, have a new filter put in, make sure that the furnace is in good condition. Obviously, if there's something major, we want to have that taken a look at, but we don't want to nitpick every little thing. So I let them know that we have a chance to review everything from the home inspection and we want to negotiate those things and we have time to do that. And if everything's great, we're moving forward, everything's awesome. But if it's not, then we still have that opportunity to cancel and get our earnest money back and move on to the next home. But we also don't want to nitpick every little thing and pick a house apart because no house is ever going to be 100% perfect. And then I let them know if everything looks great with our appraisal with our inspection, that lending is going to go ahead and order the appraisal and get that taken care of to make sure the home appraised for the value that we're willing to pay for it. We ask to make sure that lending has all the final paperwork together so that our financing is good and in good shape. And then we notify our insurance company that we're buying a home because we do have to have homeowners insurance placed on that home when we go to close. So we want to let your insurance company know that you're going to be buying a home so that they can get those numbers worked up for you so that you have an idea of what that looks like. So that's step 4. And then step 5 is settlement and closing. And that's when I say that's where the fun begins. So work up your hands, get your fingers all ready to sign 100 pieces of paper. So we go ahead, we meet with title, we sit down, we settle on the terms, we sign all our paperwork, and we get everything done. And then it goes to record. And then once it funds and records, we are officially closed on the home. And that's when you can get your keys to the home. That's one mistake I made when I very first started. I failed to communicate with, I think it was my second deal, as to when they'd get keys. And they had moving trucks and everything all ready to go right after we signed papers. And they were very upset with me that they did not get keys at the closing table. They did not get keys until later that afternoon when it funded and recorded, and they had to pay extra for moving vans. And they were very upset with me. So I learned very quickly to make sure it's very clear as to when we get possession of the home and when they get keys. It is not right after they sign their paperwork.
How long does
So
that usually take? How long does that usually take? Is it taking now for like the funding and recording? Is it a day or two, or do
it
you know, same day
if you
sometimes
want to
even?
make Yeah, sometimes you want to make sure what your offer looked like, what you guys agreed upon in your offer. If it was possession at recording, then usually recording takes 24 hours. Sometimes it can take 48, depends what day you close. If you close early on a Friday morning, most likely you're going to have keys by Friday afternoon at 4 or 5 o'clock. Usually it funds and records that day. But if you didn't sign until 2, 1:30, 2, 3 o'clock on a Friday, and it didn't have time to fund and record, you may not get keys until Monday. So you want to make
Okay.
sure that you know they're not going to get keys that weekend when they're thinking they can move in and they can't. So you got to make sure you have your timing lined up. But if possession is at recording, it's usually within 24 hours. Sometimes sooner, sometimes a little bit longer, but I always tell my people to plan on 24 hours. That way, if we get keys early, they're surprised and happy. And if it takes that full 24 hours, then they're like, that's what you told us, and that's what we knew. So then they're not disappointed and mad that there's moving vans that they can't unload yet. So I know I talked a lot about through those 5 steps. Do you guys have any questions about any of those?
So you only do the appraisal if they're getting a loan. If they're cash buyers, they don't need like an approval letter or anything.
If they're a cash buyer, they have to just provide proof of funds to the seller just to show that they have the money to purchase the property, but they don't have to get an appraisal.
And for the proof of funds, would it have to be on like one account? Like say if they were running a business, or multiple businesses and those funds were in those accounts, would it have to be all in one account?
No,
Does that matter? Okay.
no, I've had cash buyers that they did have it all in one account. I've had cash buyers where it's been over several accounts and they just show that they have the money over the several accounts. Usually when they have it over several accounts, they also have an accountant that usually, or a, um, typically it's been an accountant. I've had one that had like someone who manages their money call in and say, hey, and they provide whatever documents they need to verify that their client has multiple accounts, that they have plenty of money in these accounts, and they usually provide some sort of a letter of authenticity or prove that they are who they are and that they have the money. So
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so on the inspection, you let them know obviously what the cost is, and that, you know, do you obviously, do you have the due diligence paper before the inspection, so they don't end up spending $500 on an inspection? Can you get questions answered from the listings agent before you get the inspection? So if they're let's say they're on the fence and they're like, I don't know, and they don't want to have the inspection just yet, can you usually try to get as much detail as you can? I mean, I'm assuming, like, I have bought a house before, so that way you're not, they're kind of like, well, I don't know. Can you question the agent about, let's say there's a crack in the basement, and would that be on the disclosure? Or, do
right,
you
that's
have
why I
clients
asked.
that kind of go, oh, we need 3 inspections, it's $1,500. So,
Right. Yeah, that's why I always ask for the seller's disclosures to come up pretty quick. I usually ask for those within the first 4 days. And then I put my
okay.
due diligence about 10 to 14 days out, depending on the house. Because
Oh,
I let them
okay,
know,
after the disclosures then. Okay, that's what I
yeah,
wasn't sure
after
how
the
far. Okay,
disclosures, yeah. So they can
okay.
read the disclosures and see if they noticed it walking the house, if it's mentioned in the disclosures, and if it is, what does that say? So they can say, oh, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Or if they're not in there, or the information's vague, and they want to move forward still, then they know they're going to probably have their regular inspection, and then they may have like an engineer being coming out or something, and they kind of know what they're in for. That's why I
So
always
if
ask for disclosures
Yeah, so
first.
on the disclosures, let's just say they're walking through, it's not on there. Can they can they talk to you or, and say to you, hey, Cami, it's not on the disclosures. Can you ask the seller's agent to ask the owners before we get this, if they know any more information about that before we get the inspection? Is that workout usually okay with between the agents? Will they'll be,
For sure. Yep.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay. Just
Yep.
because a first time buyer might not have that extra 1,000 or 1,500 to have 2
Right.
and 3 inspections. So, okay.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I try to communicate a lot with that listing agent and build that rapport. Never be afraid to talk to the listing agent, especially when you're getting ready to write the offer. Call that listing agent, ask them questions. Say, hey, what is your buyer looking for? What can they be aside from netting the most money? What do they need? And a lot of agents will appreciate that and they will talk that through to you so that you can tailor your offer to best fit their seller's needs as well as your buyer. And then once you start building that rapport, then they're more willing and wanting to work with you, especially if they have multiple offers. And the more you communicate with that listing agent, if something weird down the line happens and you need to push for an extension for whatever reason, they're more willing to work with you and get that done because you've been talking to them all along. You don't want to wait to the last minute to talk to them. And they're like, oh, now that you need something, you're talking to me. You want to talk to them right off the bat and build that relationship with them. It goes a lot smoother. And then after I've gone through the 5 steps of the buying process, then I tell them, great, now that I'm done talking of all these 5 steps. You mentioned you brought your homework, right? And they say, yes, great. Let's talk about your home. What are your 5 wants and your 5 needs? And then they tell me about what those are, whether that's they have to have so many bathrooms or they have to have so many bedrooms or they have to be in a certain area or whatever that looks like. They tell me what their 5 wants and their 5 needs are of their next home or their first home, whatever that is. And then we talk about a little bit more about that in detail, where they want to be. And I take really good notes and I'm like, okay, if we find a home that maybe they really wanted a 3-car garage that's extra, that third car's extra deep because they like to work on cars. They want to have a shop in the kind of the back of that third bay. And I say, okay, what if I find you a 3-car garage? That third bay is not super long, but there's extra space on the side of the home. There's like RV parking that maybe we can convert that into your shop. Would that work for you? And they're like, oh yeah, that's an idea. Okay, great. So you find out what's a deal breaker and what isn't, what you begin to learn more about what it is they really are looking for and how you can best help them. Like that's why oh, sorry, that's my dog. That's why I asked what kind of pet you have, because when I get to this point, I'm like, okay, you mentioned you have a dog, Terry. Oh my gosh, and a cat. So do we need a home that already has a fence so that you can keep your dog in the yard? Or are you okay with if everything's checked, all the boxes are checked with the home, you're okay with putting up a fence yourself afterwards? And then they're like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Thanks for remembering my pet and my 4-legged friend. Yes, I have to have a fence already put in the home. So then you know what you're looking for, and that helps you narrow down your search when you're finding that home. Or you mentioned that you pet sit a lot. A lot of your kids or your friends bring their pets over for you to watch while they go on a trip or they're gone for the long weekend. Oh, it looks like maybe we need a really big yard, or do we need a tall fence, or do we need to look for a home that has the ability to put in a doggy door, that kind of a thing. I went and looked at showed a house out in, where were we? We were in Saratoga, I think Saratoga, a couple weeks back. I was showing my clients, and we realized after walking home, they have no back door. The layout of the house is they have the front door. And then as you go through the kitchen, there's a door from the kitchen into the garage. And in the garage, there's a man door out to the backyard. But when you move to the back of the house was all bedrooms. There was no back door to this house. And the wife stood there and she goes, how's my dog getting outside? There's no door to the backyard. How does my dog get to the backyard? And that's what made us start looking around and realizing there's no back door. The dog would have to go, they'd have to put a doggy door into the garage and then a doggy door through that man door out to the backyard. but technically you can't have doggy doors on those doors because those are your firewall doors. And an inspector would come through. If you went to sell that house, they would tell you that you would need to replace those doors because those doors are a firewall door. Now they've been compromised because they have a hole in them for a doggy door. So, yeah. So just things that's why you have that forward conversation in the beginning. You get to really know what your clients are looking for and what they need, so that when you get to their 5 wants and needs, you can really hone in on what that looks like for them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that's help.
Yeah.
And then after I talk about their 5 wants and 5 needs with them, I say, great, I'm finding that we are a really good fit together. The state requires us to have this pesky paperwork filled out in order for me to show a home, to start showing homes for you. Let's go ahead and get that paperwork signed so that we can start showing homes next Friday or whatever that looks like. Because if they said, oh, great, we've already, gives you a chance to get lending in or whatever that day looks like, say, great, that way we can get out next weekend and start looking at homes. Sound awesome? And then you start going over the paperwork and getting the paperwork signed. And even if I have yet, honestly, to ever have a buyer consultation where I'm like, I do not want to work with these people. Usually I connect, if it's a couple, I connect with one or the other really, really well. And the other one just, as we get working together, they start to open up and we find at the very end, we all know each other pretty well. So I have yet to say, I don't think we're a good fit after spending an hour with you. I don't know that I want to work with you. You have a great day. I've never done that. But that is my verbiage that I say after I've gone through my 5 wants and needs. I say, awesome. We have had so much fun. Can you believe it's already been an hour, or it's already been an hour and a half? We've had so much fun sitting here talking about this process together. Let's go ahead and get this paperwork that the state requires for me to get filled out for you to show you a home and get that out of the way so we can get moving forward. How does that sound? And they're like, great. And then you start going over the paperwork.
So at what point do you actually bring up any kind of commission? Is that in the paperwork? Do you go over what the paperwork says to them at that point, or?
Yeah, usually if they haven't asked already, well, how do you get paid? Then when I go through that buyer broker paperwork where trying to think off the top of my head, it was like paragraph 3 right there on that page 1 where it talks about commission. I start talking, that's when I talk about commission. Yeah.
Okay.
If they bring it in earlier, then I do talk about it. I say that is a great question. Most of the time, you will find that I get paid by the sellers. The sellers pay my commission. The sellers offer a buyer agent commission, and that's how I get paid. And even before the changes that we have coming about in August, I would always say, I ask for 3%. I ask to be paid 3%. Typically, I get paid that from the seller. That's part of what they're offering. If by chance we look at a home that is 2.5, what I would rather do is do such amazing, fantastic job working for you that I am your realtor for life, that you think of no one else but me, and you tell all your friends and family, man, Cami is the best. She's the one to work for if you need to help buying a home. I would rather get a referral from you and work with another person to do it and have a great, wonderful experience for you than to charge you that extra 0.5% and have you pay that to me to make up that difference to 3%. So I'm fine if we see a home where they're only offering 2.5%. Now, if we're looking at a home and they're only offering 1%, conversation might change a little bit. And there may be a conversation where we change that I may ask you to pitch in a few dollars. But overall, my goal is to have this just be so amazing and wonderful that I'm getting referrals from you and I have more business coming on down the line, then I don't worry about that extra percentage. Now that has to shift a little bit with what's happening in August, but that has always been my conversation. I always tell them I ask for 3%. So,
Okay,
and
thanks.
honestly, I have only, no, I shouldn't say never. One time I have negotiated in the offer for the sellers to contribute to my commission because they were only offering like 1.5%. And so I have that conversation with my buyers. I'm like, look, they're only offering 1.5%. I'm going to, when we write our offer, ask that they pay me 2.5% and come up 1% to get you into this home, knowing that they may reject the offer because I have asked that. Are you okay with that, Mr. Buyer? And they said yes. So, And we still got it. They agreed to bring up the commission to 2.5 and it was fine. And we moved forward. But you need to let them know that, because if you're asking for that, that could hinder whether or not they win the offer. Or your offer is
Okay.
won with the sellers.
Thanks.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Is there something that you were hoping to get out of the class that you didn't, that I may have missed, or anything else that you've thought of since we began that you wanted to have covered?
Kami, I have one question.
Yes.
So what are the buyer's mindset when they ask consultant? Like they want to sign with me, or like they expect that, or what is their mindset?
What's their mindset is if they are going to work with you moving in?
Yeah. Yes, like what is the like do buyer expect they will sign with me, or like they want to maybe talk to their spouse, or they want to talk to maybe different agent? Like what is their mindset if they ask you?
Yeah. So when I go to set the appointment in the very beginning, I always make sure I'm like, oh, Mr. Smith, so great to chat with you. All right, we're going to meet next Thursday at 3. Are you buying the home alone, or do you have a significant other that's coming with you? And he says, oh, my wife's coming, or my wife's will be with us. Great. Can they make this appointment? And I always make sure that all parties involved, if possible, can be there for that consultation. Great. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the home buying process, what that looks like, and what the process looks like for you. And then we'll talk about, then and I'd say, and you, because I'll give you a little bit of homework. I want you to bring to me your 5 wants and your 5 needs that you need in a home and want in a home. And we'll talk about that. So if you can do that homework for me, that would be great. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about the home buying process and what that looks like for you. And if we find that we're a good fit for each other, we'll go ahead and get that paperwork signed and completed while we're meeting together so that we can work together to find you a home. So I set the precedence that we will be talking about paperwork before they even meet with me in the first place. So that then when they do meet with me and we go through the process at the end, and I say, oh, this is awesome. We've had such a great time here. Let's go ahead and get this paperwork taken care of and move along. And I never word it that it's paperwork that I require. I will always word it as the state requires me to have this paperwork filled out in order for me to show you a home. That way they're like, ooh, she wanted paperwork. I didn't like that she wanted paper, because that sometimes is a mind. I know it's just one word, but it's a mind. It sits in people's minds differently. It's kind of a game changer. So I always say the state requires me to fill out this paperwork in order for us to work together. That way they don't get mad and say, well, she sure requires a lot of paperwork. It's not me, it's the state. So, but I do set that precedence when we make that phone call, when we make that appointment, that we will be going over paperwork should we find that we're a good fit for each other.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Anything else? Any other questions?
So Cami, I think you
Amy.
oh, sorry, maybe there is another question.
Hi, Lori. I have a question
Okay.
for Cami.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you meet some buyers at appointment for consultation, have you ever been rejected to sign the paper with you?
Yes. Yep. There have been times when they're like, we're not quite ready. We're not sure we want to do that. I'm like, all right, not a problem. Or they're like, we want to really read this paperwork through before we sign it. Something like that. I'm like, perfect. I'll go ahead and send everything through to you via DocuSign and ask them if they're familiar with DocuSign. They say yes or no, and we talk about that. And I'm like, make sure I've got their email address and say, let me email that over to you. And then you'll have a chance to read through that. And then if you have any questions, we can meet virtually over Zoom and go over the paperwork again. And then you guys can easily sign that then. Or sometimes they're just like, we're not sure we want to sign today. I'm like, great. I totally understand that. If you have any questions moving forward, I will follow up with you. When's a great day to follow up with you so that they don't leave the appointment without a time knowing that I'm going to follow up with them. Like we're meeting today on Tuesday. Great. Can I follow up with you on Thursday afternoon to see what you guys are thinking and what questions that you may have? And then I set up another time for me to talk to them. But I have had a couple of people at different points say, I don't want to sign today. I would really need to think it over, or maybe their spouse didn't get to come with them or something.
Thank you.
It's a great question, Vicky.
Yep.
Thanks, Lori. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So, with the changes coming up August 17th, for all the buyer consultation or seller consultation, are they going to follow the same steps or we have any changes?
I will be following the same steps just because it's kind of already in there where I talk about those things. So I will already be following those same steps. I'll just might have to change a few verbiages here and there. In the past, I've also met, I mean, it's rare, but I have met buyers the first time at a house where they're like, they've called and said, hey, we're standing out inside in front of this house. We really want to see it. Can you come show it to us? I'm like, awesome. I sure can. I can be there within like 45 minutes. Go grab a soda and a bag of chips, take a break, come back. I'll meet you at the house. We'll go in and walk through it. Up until August 17th, we could open a door without having paperwork signed. As of this date, we absolutely cannot. So I've always let them know, awesome. I will be happy to meet you there. I will have paperwork that the state requires for us to sign, for me to legally open that door for you. I will have that in hand. So we'll need to have a brief conversation before I unlock that door and go in and see that home. And they're usually like, okay. So, but even if before this hard deadline where we've absolutely 100% had to have it signed, I've always let them know, for me to legally open this door for you, we need to have a buyer broker signed. And so I set that precedence even if I'm meeting them at the door.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Your class is really helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, Cami, thank you so much. I think you did a fantastic job of helping these agents prepare for what is going to be a fun buyer's market coming up.
It is. It's going to be awesome. So
it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And agents, I'm really grateful that you got to learn from somebody who's got such a perfected system. And I loved the clear and concise steps that you shared with us. So thank you so much for sharing your time tonight. It was fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. You all have a good evening, and I wish you all the best of luck. It's going to be amazing. You're going to have a lot of fun doing this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.